Nigerian mobile telecommunications companies are set to disconnect bank customers from using the Unstructured Supplementary Service Data services due to the 120 billion naira debt owed to the operators. Now, the disagreement between telecoms administrators and business banks over utilizing USSD platforms has been ongoing since 2015, and in 2021, debt incurred by the banks was estimated at 42 billion naira, but failure to service the debt resulted in an accumulation to the tune of 120 billion naira. And the Association of Licensed Telecommunications Operators of Nigeria, with the support of the Nigerian Communications Commission, authorized the mobile network operators on May 12, 2023 to disconnect deposit money banks from using the platform. According to Alton, the lingering crisis may force its members to give individual debtor banks an ultimatum, with the continuous refusal to pay attracting outright disconnection. While on the spot, the central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, intervened to resolve the crisis by proposing a direct billing model instead, as a lasting solution to the issue. So joining me on the show this morning is Benga Adebayo, is the chairman, Association of Licensed Telecoms Operators of Nigeria. Thank you, Benga, for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. Good morning.
Now, 120 billion naira is a lot of money to be owed for services rendered. And according to the allegation, the deposit money banks refused to pay the sum owed. So why is it that these banks refuse to pay? Because these services were rendered to them. And what is the implication, looking at the fact that these banks make money as well? So why wouldn't they pay? Why wouldn't they meet up with the obligation that is necessary for them?
Well, that may be a question to ask the banks why they're not paying, particularly when these are services that have been rendered for which, in our understanding, banks have received monies from the customers. And so it's a bit difficult to explain reasons why they're not honoring their commercial obligation as due to service providers. But the fact remains that we've been on this journey since 2021. We have now this escalation because we were meant to have enforced the terms of the commercial agreement between the banks and our members, or between the banks and their data aggregators. But our minister intervened, looking at the possible impact on the public and as well as the possible impact on subscribers, and did say that we should consider some resolution outside of disconnection. And we have been on that journey since the beginning of 2021, when the debt profile at that time stood at 42 billion. Now we are at 120 billion. These parties have refused to honor the obligation to the operators, and we came to where we are. So the reason why they're not paying, I think, is something we should ask them. We also cannot explain. We're hearing different reasons now why they said that this should be. We're hearing now that it should be end-user billing and not per session billing. And that's completely at variance with our understanding. But if they do say they now want end-user billing, that cannot be done retroactively. We need to look at it going forward. And the big question to then ask them is, if you are doing end-user billing now, how do you pay the debt that is outstanding, which has accrued as a result of per session billing? But again, we have seen over the last years that this seems to be the attitude of the banks. Each time this matter is discussed, they find the one reason or the other why they will not pay the money. You may have noticed also in the last 1 week when we gave this notice that they had earlier said, yes, they understand that there's a dispute, they will find a way to resolve it. Next, they came and they said there's some problem with billing, per session billing is what is meant to do it, end-user billing is what is meant to do it. And just yesterday, we are reading that they are saying USSD debt accrue because of high cost of data. And all of these stories are just completely at variance with the terms of the commercial agreement that we signed with them. And as it stands today, there's no choice than to withdraw the services from them in line with the
Benga, you've talked about the cost of operation of this USSD platform. You've talked about issues as regards the billing system. And there are also complaints that has to do with the quality of service being rendered by these MNOs, saying that it's been erratic, it's been poor, and transactions would bounce and would be incomplete. And there have been backlog of failed transactions because of the quality of services provided by these MNOs. So don't you think that these, without having to look at the contractual agreements between the telecommunications operation and, of course, these banks and the MNOs, as it were, don't you think that these are actually important situations that need to be looked at and addressed so that both parties or all parties involved can have quality in terms of the services being rendered and what is to be paid?
I disagree with you because when that kind of excuse is now made, it becomes an after the fact. In the first instance, these are services that has been successfully rendered, for which, in our understanding, the deposit money banks have received money from the subscribers, and therefore to come with reasons such as excuses such as quality of services, poor delivery, and all of that, we think is an after the fact. The reality is that we provide carrier service. Carrier service is one that provides transport from point A to point B. And I did say in the course of the week that imagine you want to go to the bank, you book an online taxi, Uber, Taxify, or Bolt or something, and the driver takes you from your residence to the premises to the doorstep of the bank. His job is done. So, and that's more or less what we do. We deliver subscribers from their devices to the platform of the banks. What happens on the platform of the bank is not in our control. And we have record of successful transactions. So in essence, our job is take you from your device to the doorstep of the bank, to the platform of the banks. We deserve to be paid for this service because you will not say you have hired an online taxi to the bank. When you go to the bank, the doors were closed, or the teller of the banking officer was not available, you couldn't consummate the transaction, and you will not pay the taxi man. That's not the valid argument. And that's what we are saying. So we do have successful record of successful transactions. We say to them, these are our records. If you have information to the contrary, bring it, let's reconcile. So as far as we know, these are services that are successful. They've been successfully delivered to the platform of the banks. The banks have earned money from it, as far as we do know. And so in our understanding, there's no reason why they shouldn't be paid. So even if you have a margin of error where you say in some instances connections are not successful, there are issues to be reconciled. It's not a reason to allow the debt to accumulate.
Okay, now this is not the first time that Alton will be thinking about disconnecting bank customers and discontinuing the deposit money banks from using this particular platform. And the reason is because the effect will be catastrophic. So now that you've gotten approval from the NCC, how catastrophic, how monumental do you think this would impact the banks, the telcos, and the customers?
There's no doubt it will cause significant disruption. And the best thing to do for all stakeholders is to ensure that this money is paid. Because if we withdraw USSD services today, we have seen from the data from the denomination, we have seen how fragile some of the banks are. So if we go again another round of withdrawal of USSD services now that they're just recovering from the Naira denomination policy and all of the impact on that, we think it will have significant impact on the bank customers. We are also very mindful of that. But the fact remains that as an industry, we cannot exist with a debt profile that is that high. It also threatens our existence as an industry. And really and truly, there is really no reason why this money should not be paid, because there are what we call services that are being fully paid for. And so we do hope that, considering the significant impact this might have on the economy and the public, that the banks will honor their obligation instead of apportioning blame and looking for reasons to escape from paying this debt. Because when I look at the narration of the banks in the last 1 week, unfortunately, it appears as a behavior of typical debtors. When people owe money, they find all kinds of reasons why they shouldn't pay. So we think they should be gentlemanly enough to come around the table and let's have this matter fully resolved for the greater good. Otherwise, it is the common people that will suffer. It threatens our existence as an industry. It threatens relationship with the bank. It's introducing some credibility and integrity issues on the financial inclusion and digital banking. And we just need to avoid anything of such to happen to the financial technology sector.
All right, so Benga, we heard that the presidency has waded into the matter. The Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, that is Issa Pantami, has also been involved with some sort of discussions and talks. The NCC, the Central Bank of Nigeria. Has there been any way forward? Has there been progress in terms of talks?
Well, we made some progress in our understanding a few months ago, when in January, a technical committee was set up between the two industries and the two regulators, NCC and the CBN, to try and resolve this matter. And proposals were made as what is the way forward, including we making a request to the bank to say, do some form of a good faith payments. Now that the debt is what it is, even if we do have this pool, we expect that some payment will be made on account to minimize the weight of the debt. But nothing has happened. And that's why we went back to our regulators to say to them, now that all efforts to resolve this matter has yielded no results, can we be allowed to implement the terms of our commercial agreement with the WC Money Banks? And that was the approval we got last week. So the Honorable Minister of Communication and Digital Economy granting this approval through our regulator, is to show that all efforts to resolve this matter gentlemanly has failed. Unfortunately, our friends in the bank are not acting in ways that we expect. And in that regard, the only alternative we have is to go back to our terms of engagement with them, terms of agreement with them, and enforce it to the letter, which will now include withdrawal of services to those who are owing money.
All right, let's go back.
Say that in the intervening period, some of the banks are paying. Some were paying, they stopped to pay. Some asked for reconciliation. So discussions are ongoing with a few of them who have shown a willingness to resolve the matter. But quite a number of the other ones who unfortunately are the big debtors, they are evasive of this issue. And we don't know why.
All right, Benga, we are looking for a way out here, and you've said that there's no going back on payments. But then let's look at the issue of billing system that you mentioned earlier. Even the Central Bank of Nigeria, that is Godwin Emefiele, proposed a direct billing model to resolve this issue. Now, I'd like to know how that will work out. I would like to also know if that could be a way to ensure that there are no debts being owed and the services are seamless.
We do not have any problem with direct billing. It's called the end user billing. We don't have any problem. What it means is that when you use the service, we would take the cost, we'll debit into your airtime or debit into your data service. But the problem is that when you have this issue, this issue of end user billing, you may also have a situation where operators charge for the airtime and the banks end up debiting the subscriber again. So it will amount to double billing. And this was the concern that we raised at the section when the bank said we should do end user billing. And the Honorable Minister did say that because of the possible impact on the public, end user billing should be carefully considered. Let's even resolve the issues that we have on ground. And then we can look at what kind of billing mechanism we'll obtain going forward. However, we have no objections to end user billing. But end user billing today will not cure the debt. And so we are saying that even if going forward with the end user billing, the bank have to answer two questions. Number one is that how do they pay the debt? Are they saying let's not introduce end user billing? On account of this, people will pay for services that have been rendered, for which money has been deducted from their accounts? Or they are saying when they introduce end user billing, they will not charge the subscribers again once the operators deduct monies for the service on their own airtime or from their data service. So these two questions the banks have to answer the public. So our concern in that regard is, yes, end user billing is welcome, but we need some assurance that, for the public, we need some assurance that there will be no double billing on the subscribers.
All right, so finally, Benga, what about the issue of the harmonized short codes that the operators are going to now? How do you think that will work? And what problem-solving initiatives do you think this will bring?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
All right, so I talked about the harmonized short codes. So we understand that the telecom operators will begin a regime whereby there will be an harmonized short codes for a country. So instead of having separate codes from different network operators, you have just one single code that trickles down to different services under under that particular platform. So I'd like to understand how that will work and what that will solve.
Well, it has become a common that services that are common across network are tested, whether to check account balance, whether to do credit recharge, whether to do data renewal and all of that. And what the NCC has done is to harmonize the short code so that on whichever network you are, credit balance will be just one code, one type of code. Recharge will be just one type of code. So it's common across all networks. First is that it makes remembering these codes easier. It helps for efficient utilization of the short code element, and at the end of the day, it's to the best interest of subscribers. So it's nothing punitive, or first, it's a common practice. It's a convenient service that we think that we bring to bear easy usage of the short code. We also think that if people have three different network lines, they don't have to memorize 3 different short codes for different applications on the network. So that has taken effect, and a lot of public enlightenment is now going on for people to know how best to use it. So it's just one common code for any type of service you are being, irrespective of what network you are on.
All right, thank you so much, Benga. We are seeing that the mobile network operators are doing what they can to improve their services, but then it is now left for the money deposit banks, or the deposit money banks, as it were, to come to table and say why they are not paying and when they would likely pay so that the services can continue. Thank you so much, Benga, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, the situation between mobile network operators and deposit money banks remain fluid, with no firm decision yet on whether or not telcos will proceed with the disconnection of bank customers from using the USSD platform, even as the Nigerian government is trying to intervene. So we get to see in the coming days or weeks what the response of the deposit money banks would be as regards this, because the USSD code has been a leveler and a helper in the transactions being made by bank customers. And we hope that that will not degenerate into a monumental challenge, both for the banks and, of course, the consumers who make do with this platform. We go on a short break, and when we return, it will be time for international business stories.